Um, what I tell all of our faculty and staff that I work with, because the word accessibility, people automatically are going, ah, even if they're trying not to, I see it. Even the people that are trying to mask it. Oh, I'm Suzanne Mistrick. Thank you. I'm the accessibility specialist at Wake Tech Community College, former colleague of the Queen of Distance Education at RCC, Miss Christine Wilson, and also the Disney princess. Okay. Yeah. Ideally, I think it's the task of whoever is, whether you have a full-time accessibility person or advocates in different departments or however you're working with accessibility, hopefully it's more than just you're out there on your own. I feel like it's my job not to make yours harder, but to make yours easier, to find resources. And it's really a mission for me to make finding content and creating content and using content that's accessible to all learners easy, not hard.
At what point did Wake Tech decide that it needed a full-time accessibility specialist?
I've been 3 years this past January, and I am the first accessibility specialist trainer, and I think it evolved out of discussions in distance education and recognizing that there were issues that weren't being addressed and trying to be ahead of it. And I think that as big as Wake Tech is, it really requires a communal effort. What we're doing now, first it started out, I was the accessibility specialist and I was kind of a one-person show. And I offered training classes that people came to if they wanted to. And prior to that point, Disability Support Services had done everything. And I think one thing that I try to clarify is the difference between accessibility and accommodation. Because up to a point, Disability Support Services, probably in most schools, handle it all, ad hoc. When they need it, a student registers, they scramble to make the content accessible. And that really doesn't meet the letter of the law because ad hoc accommodation doesn't. And it also, it's been proven that content that's accessible is students without challenges do better in courses that are accessible, created with accessibility and universal design in mind, than courses that aren't accessible. My favorite story, one of our math instructors, higher level math, I think it was algebra and trig, we were having a session somewhat like this, and she said that she just had her first student with a declared disability in her class, and she had two. She had a blind and a deaf student in, I think it was algebra and trig. This instructor also teaches calculus and statistics, but I think this was algebra and trig. And so she said she scrambled. She's an excellent teacher, so she took the bull by the horns. And she said she scrambled, being very careful to speak visually, to face the class, to make sure that she chose her words carefully, that her videos that she used were captioned, that she described graphs and charts that didn't conflict, you know, as long as it doesn't conflict with the objectives, that she described it. And she said she hadn't had time to take a breath to realize until the end of the semester that not only did the deaf and the blind student do well, not a single student dropped the class, and she had the best overall grade in that particular class that she'd ever had. And you know, she said, I should have videotaped her. She said, I'm a mathematician. I'm not going to say that's why it was, but it, you know, it seemed to really make a difference in her class. So now she's a real, after that, she's a huge advocate too.
I want to go back and ask again. You said 3 years that Wake Tech's been doing this, and obviously Wake Tech saw some advantage, or maybe saw a little pride for them to do this. Approximately, how many resources is Wake Tech devoting to accessibility? I mean, you know, I think truly you're hitting the main points. Yes, it's good for us. It would be good for us to have it in place.
But you can't do it by yourself.
But that's the main thing.
Exactly.
When
You
it
can't.
falls to me as a classroom instructor or an online instructor to do all of it myself, I find that immensely daunting.
Well, you're a subject matter expert. I think what has to happen is, and we talked about this at dinner last night, it has to come from higher up. It has to come from the powers that be. You have to have support. I have a colleague that I benchmarked with that we went to a conference together from Portland Community College, and our schools parallel really well. And they've had support. One thing that helps too is at our school, we didn't market it as we should. Hindsight's always 20/20. What happened is I was a little accessibility person in my little corner that a few people came to, but they didn't have to, so they really didn't. And then we had a hint of a situation. Nothing really happened, but enough that it got the attention. They put a VP in charge of an accessibility task force, and then it was decided promptly that everybody would take accessibility training. So we scrambled to and I'm using the words appropriately here, we scrambled to throw together an accessibility course for everybody. And that was a bad idea. At the time, we didn't, if I had it to do over again, I'd say, wait, stop. Let's sell it first. Let's market it to the people first. Let's show them how this is going to be good for everybody. But instead it was, everybody has to take this by your performance review. So it didn't sit nicely. Now, we've turned around, we've come around through that because there is a lot of pushback, and we're trying to scramble to make up for it. So what they've done now is they've started to put some money into it. I don't think it's department, I think it's every discipline is going to have, over the summer, a designated accessibility liaison. That person will receive extra training. Most of them I know, and they've been interested all along, and they either have some background in computers or some sort of connection with accessibility. So they're on the bandwagon, and they're going to evaluate courses, and as subject matter experts as well, try to really figure out what's needed most. Captioning is the big deal. Right now, yes, great things. I will definitely, absolutely, lots of tools. In fact, we have a small amount of money designated to one part-time person doing captioning, and it's me. I love to do it. And I'm looking for tools. It gives me a good chance to figure out what the best tool is and to weed out the ones that take too long and are too complicated.
So your institution is actually paying someone to do the nuts and bolts of captioning and making things available.
Some of it.
Content.
Well, it's going to be tiered. Within the next few months, as they say, we don't know what the budget's going to do, but good Lord willing, they're going to hire an instructional designer with additional accessibility training that will help faculty actually put accessible content together. Now, for example, do y'all have Camtasia?
Yes.
Okay, the new version of...
Not universally,
Okay.
but it is here on campus.
Well, the new version of Camtasia, faculty that use that, it's got a really easy captioning tool in there. They're supposed to create a transcript, and there are mixed feelings about this when they do that, so it's really easy to caption. So if they have that tool, they've gotten the training, they're expected to caption that as they go along. We've got teachers that have lots and lots of videos, and really good videos that they have created that they're using in their courses that aren't captioned. That's what I'm working on. I'm working on those. Disability support services for accommodation. We'll do some YouTube videos. There are copyright issues with that, so we're I'm mainly getting paid to do instructor content that can be repurposed multiple times, so that puts the value in there. And so that.
Now let's go back even further. How about the baby
Okay.
steps, like making your documents so that screen readers can handle it?
Well, and it's just a matter of awareness. And with the accessibility checker that's built in, that's not a do-all, end-all, and it doesn't always catch everything, but it's really like having a little accessibility person sitting on your shoulder, because Word has it built in. It tells you what to do, why to do it, and exactly how to do it step by step, and it sort of steps you through the process. And that helps with that.
For instructors with that, or are you simply saying Word has these things and you should use
No, they come, we have training. I'd like to see it in the future where instead of just being forced, that they're rewarded for taking steps farther. We're not there yet. They're sort of on their own, and the ones that are doing the best are the ones that have been proactive about, they're required to do 30 hours of professional development a year, and a lot of that's going to accessibility training right now. They have to do something, so they might as well do that, and that does make it easier. Okay, let me pull up. Two things. Let's see how much time I have. 12:43. We have 15 minutes. I'm going to show you two of my very favorite things that will make your life easy. One is called Amara Universal Subtitles, and the other is called YouTube. And this is really, I call it my best kept captioning secret, because if you have a transcript of your document, it used to be if you had a transcript. Now, magically, YouTube has a feature in it that you can create your transcript right in YouTube. And YouTube does not do a great job unless the audio is really awesome with the speech to text yet. It's getting better, but it's not awesome. It does do an awesome job if you have a transcript syncing it. So all you have to do is either upload a transcript that you already have or create a transcript in YouTube. Let me show you Amara first, because I'll get so excited about this, I'll go in 9 million different directions. So let me. Now, what you do with Amara is a web-based tool.
because I can't see it from
Yeah, I'm going to pull the whole thing up. It's AMARA, Universal Subtitles. Okay, and now they have just connected with YouTube. Now, it's still on its honeymoon. This is going to be great, the fact that Amara is connected with YouTube. I'm going to encourage you, don't do this yet, because it's still on the honeymoon. It hasn't really settled in yet. That's going to be wonderful. Now, this is for web-based content. This is for content that you've got in YouTube already right here. We are encouraging our faculty to use YouTube and they can do it unlisted if they don't want to share it with everybody. I encourage people to do open, because I believe in open resources, but you can do it unlisted, so people have to have the link to it. This is not for stuff that you're just putting in your Blackboard course. The other tools for that. Subtitle Edit is my favorite. It's free. I learned about it from the accessibility IT specialist at Ohio State University, and that's the second largest college in the country, and they use free tools for their accessibility, for their captioning. They use the speech-to-text built into Microsoft, into the operating system, and they listen to it and dictate it. They have graduate students that do that. And then they use Subtitle Edit to create the captions for videos that aren't in YouTube. But anyway, let me see if I can sign in here.
Still sounds like a lot of institutional resources being brought to bear on this. Being dumped back on the instructor and saying, you fix it, you do it.
My motto is, if you come to me, and this is what I have preached as this has expanded, it has to be that way. I respect you as a subject matter expert. If you have a situation that something needs to be done, I'll do it whether I get paid for it or not, because if I'm expecting you to go an extra mile, I have to be able to show you that I'm going to do the same thing. And that has to be the from the highest level ups, I think that has to be the sentiment, that you have to have support to do this. You can't do it by yourself and do all that you have to do. It's impossible. But it takes a while for the wheels to turn, to recognize that that's what's going to happen. It's happening at Wake Tech, though. They started with me, some part-time stuff. They hired an ADA, not an ADA specialist, somebody in human resources, and I can't think of what her title is, ADA something. But anyway, she's under the vice president for that, and she oversees the day-to-day operation. They've already written the job description for the instructional designer that's going to help with functioning, with accessibility, and they're going to give 9-month instructors summer positions to be accessibility liaisons, to really work with tools and to get down there and figure out how their particular discipline, what they need most, and what they can do to benefit that faculty.
One more question, I'll stop interrupting.
That's all right.
How's Wake Tech finding the funds to do this? We're looking at budget reductions.
Yeah, and I don't know. There was some grant money at one time. The VP that was over it, that's her specialty. And you know, some VPs are good about juggling money, and that.
I think I hear you saying it's institutional will.
It has to be, and it has to be. Now, you know, I hate the mentality that you do it because you're afraid to get sued, but it happened at my school because they were afraid to get sued. I sent every little article. I would send to her every little thing. And then most of the lawsuits come from the National Federation. And if you guys want the stuff, I'll send it to you so you can send it to your people. The National Federation for the Blind. Goldstein is the lawyer for the National Federation for the Blind. Those are the ones that have been doing the lawsuits. He said, if you have evaluated your school, recognize where your problem areas are, put up an action plan of what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. Obviously, it can be done tomorrow. He will not sue you. And so when we showed all these issues other schools were having, and we showed what he said, then we really started to move forward. Plus, we had an advocate in this vice president, and it has to come from up there. Without her, we would be nowhere. I mean, it had to be somebody with enough clout to say, this is what we're going to do. Like I said, I wish we'd have done it different. If you have it to start out with, sell it first, get people excited about it, and I think it'll be a lot better than stepping on toes.
I think you're preaching to the choir here. We like what you're saying.
Well, it's just a matter of time and perseverance and getting the right person. And I like to think that we all do it because it's the right thing to do. Because in this day and age, and I can't say this without checking up, with the web the way it is today, with the tools that we have, you as instructors, do you all teach online? You can potentially open doors and create, each one of you individually, create a level playing field for a student that has never before been equal to everybody else, and they might not have that opportunity anywhere else. That gives me goosebumps just to say it. You can do that. And that kind of, that's why you're here. I'm sure that's why you're teaching at a community college, because you like changing lives. Well, especially with all our wounded warriors, this is just the opportunity that it opens up of making especially online content accessible. And with the right tools, with the right training, if you're able to do it from the ground up, it really isn't that much. I know that sounds, you think, oh, well, she's just saying that. But if you create your courses with accessibility in mind and you have the right tools and you know what the process is, it doesn't take that much more time. On the other hand, retrofitting is never perfect. It takes a lot of time and it's really frustrating. And I love doing all this stuff, but I sit there and do a stack of publisher PowerPoints that are a mess, and I'm frustrated when I finish that because it just takes so much time. You could do it from perfect. And I have to go to another, but the one thing too I want to get in, here's something you can do right now that's going to make all the difference in the world. Refuse to buy materials from your publishers that are not accessible. We are required by law to procure only accessible everything. The publisher has no obligation to create accessible content. So what's happening now, and I'm sure you're seeing this in a lot of cases, is we're getting this content, supplemental content, books, videos from the publishers, and instructors are having to make that accessible. No, that's not your job. You need to demand it. And I started out telling mine, ask to see a VPAT. And that's a voluntary product accessibility template. Even if you have no idea what it should look like, they don't really necessarily know how to fill it out, but that's a good starting place because then they know you're talking about accessibility. If they've never heard of that, they're going to go find out about it. Let them know that you're going to buy only from publishers who provide content to you that you don't have to spend any time fixing. That's going to make all the difference in the world.
I do have to give credit to Pearson. I'm using their My Communication Lab, and it's a supplement to my online class. Well, it wasn't every single video, but the videos that I required students to watch, all of them were post-captioned.
Well, Pearson, I agree with you, has come a long way. 2 years ago, I went to a conference in Colorado, and the main accessibility guru at the whole conference stood up and said, Pearson's labs will never be accessible. If they tell you that they will be, they're lying. And it wasn't in a little group, in front of everybody he said that. Well, I think it was psychological, because a year and a half later, my math lab that had been awful was a lot more accessible than any of the other options. Not perfect. But you know, even if you just go, if all you know is keyboard access, tab through and make sure you can get to all your content, make sure that the PDFs aren't images of PDFs, that they're actually PDFs. If you do those two things and call your publisher's attention to the fact that, I have some documents I can share with you from Texas. They so generously shared voluntary product accessibility templates and all the questions to ask about each thing. The first time you do that, your rep's going to go, because they're going to have no idea what you're talking about. But they're going to go back and they're going to have come to Jesus meetings, and you're going to see that Pearson is doing that because people are throwing fits all over the place.
Would you share with us?
Anything I have, I will share with you. You just ask me. And if you don't hear from me, ask me again.
Are you going to be Russell J. RockinghamCC.edu.
Okay. You just tell me what you want. And if you don't hear from me in a couple of days, email me again, because I get sidetracked and sometimes something falls through the cracks. I never didn't intend for it, but bug me till you get what I've promised you.
Disability committee, so anything that you can send would be,
Is Christine on it too?
no,
Well, she knows Christine.
yes, she is,
Yeah.
she is on it.
So you can send me Christine.
Sure. And Christine will bug me if you tell her to. I've got to run. I've got to go to another session.
Thank you for sharing.
Well, I did more talking than question and answer, but I think you guys are at a really good place to make a really positive move forward.